I have 8 random questions, and I'm going to need 3 numbers, 1 through 8. So what is your first number?
2.
Number 2 is favorite scene. If you could pick a favorite scene of a TV show or movie to jump into and play yourself, what would you choose and why?
Play yourself? That's different. The first scene that came to mind is season 1 of True Blood, when Lafayette's character comes out to give the burger to the guys at the table, and he just like roughs them up, and it's like the most satisfying scene I think I've ever seen. But I don't think I could play that. I just love that performance. So I don't know what performance-wise, I don't know.
I mean, this is a fantasy question. If you want to play that scene, and also I believe you could do anything.
Oh, well, that's so sweet of you.
Aw, mean it. I like that one.
You and my mom both believe that, I think.
Aw, I'm happy to be grouped in with your mom. I love that. All right, so you picked number 2. What is your second number?
6.
This one's called Scream. What's your favorite scary movie?
So, the first Paranormal Activity, I was obsessed with it. Like, I think I saw it twice in theaters, but it traumatized me. To this day, I still have dreams that are sort of Paranormal Activity themed, where it's like there's not you can't see anything, but there's like an energy, and there's someone like pulling me or pushing me or slamming a door or something like that. And it's like it's the only recurring nightmare that I have, and I think it's because of that movie, but I loved it so much.
It's so incredibly effective. I watch horror movies all the time. Not much really gets under my skin or like in my head. That's the first modern horror movie where I'd be laying in bed and looking out into the hallway and just expecting a bathroom light to turn on or something.
No, there's just something unbelievably scary about not seeing anything.
And having no control. Like, I always think about, anyone who thinks that they can outrun a slasher is probably stupid, but at least I have more control, whereas if it's paranormal, like, what am I gonna do?
Which way is up?
No, there's nothing you can do to survive that. Third and final number.
How many questions were there? 8?
There were 8. Here's one that leans into drop a little. So this is just your favorite app. So there's bad things that happen with the phone in this movie, but just to have a little levity and a light in the use of a phone, what is the app that you use on your phone that I guess brings you the most joy?
So I'm really into puzzles, and I have Apple News, and I do all the crosswords in there. I actually started doing it when I'm on set because I think it's so easy to just be on your phone and scroll Instagram or something like that. And I was like, how can I, instead of doing that, what can I do that feels healthier and more fun? And so I've become really, really into puzzles. So I think that's probably my most used app.
Do you do Wordle?
I don't. I mean, I have. And I've definitely gone through phases where I've done it every day, but I'm not religious about it like some of my friends are.
I do it every single day, and I send it back and forth with my mother, and she has a running tally of who has won for like something like 500 days now.
It's really fun. My best friends do that too with their mom every day, and they have a group thread about it, and I think that's so fun. It's like a fun way to connect.
It's the game Connections and the mini crossword that times you. I love that.
I like the mini ones. So satisfying.
It really is. What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Ladies Night. We get to do a South by Southwest edition with Meghann Fahy. Congratulations on everything you've done, but especially drop something else. I feel like I'll say this a couple times when we get to talking about the movie, and I'll also preface this by saying a lot of things about that production are very impressive. The success of that movie hinges on your work, and you absolutely soar in it. Seriously, congratulations.
So kind to say, thank you.
I mean it.
I genuinely feel like Chris Landon, who directed it, was the person who sort of got me through all of it. He was such an incredible leader. So he made it all very, not easy because it was hard, but he had such a clear vision. It was just amazing. Can we start over?
What is the movie you saw, the performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I have to be an actor?
I never really had that moment. I have to be honest. Like I never really thought I would be an actor. So, but I have seen so many movies that have really moved me, and, you know, especially now that I am an actor, where I think, oh, that's, you know, what that person achieved is so impressive. But if I had to think of one from when I was really little, I really loved, like, you know, Harriet the Spy and like all of those classics, obviously Michelle. But yeah, I think I just saw myself in her as a little girl, and she was so like fun and mischievous. And yeah, I loved that.
Those kinds of movies, it's like you not only want to be the character in the making of the movie, but like you want to be the character a little too. And I love that.
Everybody who watches films has that experience at some point where they picture themselves doing it, or they think, you know, that's kind of the beauty of it, is that it's sort of universal in that experience, even if you're not somebody who's, you know, in the industry in any way.
So that's kind of where maybe like the itch starts a little bit. Is there a particular, because like I was looking at like your Wikipedia, like I do more research than that, but that's the greatest way to get like a really quick overview. And there are a bunch of things that caught my eye because I've seen a lot of your screen work, but there's like a significant amount of theater work. Like you're on Broadway. How did I not know that? Where did it start to become like a need to make it a profession? Like, not that everyone has to do this, but to like you train anywhere. Where did all that begin?
I didn't train anywhere. I moved to New York after high school and I was involved in a musical called Next to Normal. That at first I was the understudy, and then I took over later on. And so after that, I just kind of started auditioning. But I will say, I think the turning point for me really was when I started the Bold type. It was the first pilot I'd ever shot. And then we got picked up, and we were so lucky we got to do 5 seasons of that show. And that was the first time I really had the opportunity to kind of settle into myself and had the space and the freedom, because our creatives were so generous with us, to find out what I liked. And I fell in love with comedy, and I realized that I have an opinion sometimes and ideas. You know, before that, I hadn't really been able to step confidently into that space. And I think the Bold type was really the turning point for me.
I love that you had that on that set. I have a couple of follow-up questions about that, but going back a little first. So you got stage work, and then some of your early screen work included an appearance on Gossip Girl. I think that was your first screen credit ever. I know it was just, I think, a single day of work, but when you have a first experience, especially on a big show like that, I have to imagine it makes a big impression and maybe sets certain expectations. So what were some of your big takeaways for being on that set in terms of what it would be like to be a screen actor going forward?
I mean, honestly, it was so overwhelming, and I had never been on a set before, so I didn't know any of the lingo, and I just felt very, very unbelievably debilitatingly nervous. And so I think my takeaway after that was like, do I want to do that again? But everybody was so sweet to me. I had 2 scenes with Ed Westwick, and I think he could tell that I was really, really nervous, and he offered to run lines with me, which was really sweet. But yeah, that was kind of like a total, I was so out of it, because I was so thinking about like, what even is all of this, that I don't even really remember how I felt like at the end of that day. I don't remember, you know?
Oh, I get that. Some of that answer was making me think of this question that I haven't asked in a while, and I do love asking. When you were first starting out, what is a seemingly silly question about how TV shows and movies are made that maybe you were embarrassed to ask but wished you had asked sooner?
Yeah, I was really shy to ask what anything meant. Like if somebody said something and I didn't know what it meant, I didn't want to reveal myself, expose myself as being so green. So I just kind of would say nothing. I wish that I probably would have felt more comfortable asking for clarification. You know, like if I'm working with a director or something and they say something, and it doesn't happen often, but if I don't feel like I've completely understood what it is they're asking me to do, I'm more comfortable now saying, I'm not sure I quite know what you mean. Can you explain that again? And it's like a very liberating and small, but also big thing that I think I probably would have benefited from a lot earlier on.
Yeah, that's why I bring up the question. I just like, there's no silly questions. And like, admittedly, I've been guilty of that type of thing. And then looking back, I'm like, why not just ask?
Totally. 100%.
Yeah, so important. I'll jump back to the bold type now, in particular to jump to the end of it, because 5 seasons, and I think it came to its natural conclusion at that, but it can still be very difficult to let go of, like, I guess, like a safe place in this industry that was part of your life for so many years. When that came to an end, were you kind of ready to like have closure with it, close the door and move forward, or was it a difficult thing to let go of and jump into other work?
It's kind of both, honestly. I mean, I started the show when I was in my mid-20s and made 2 of my very best friends on it. So it was super emotional to say goodbye to that, because we did so much growing up and learning together there. But at the same time, I think it did kind of end in perfect time. And I think that is really special too. You know, I think it would have been really sad if we had done only 1 season and then we didn't get picked up or something. But it really felt like we got the chance to tell those stories. And especially we had the luxury of sort of knowing that it was the final season when we came back. And that always sort of makes you extra grateful and sort of puts you in a position where you can really take in what's happening around you and appreciate it. Because, you know, it happens all the time. You're on set and it's long days and it's a number of months. I mean, we would shoot 22 episodes in a row sometimes, and that's 9 months out of the year. So you get tired and you get like, you know, frustrated sometimes. But so having that at the end was such a nice thing to know going into it, because we really were able to soak it up that much more.
I'll squeeze in one more question about that one as it pertains to a future show you did. And I know you're still working, well, you did 2 more shows after that are coming to mind now, but you're also working on another one now, I believe. But what are some takeaways from the bold type that informed the choices you made when choosing shows going forward? Like things you needed to see in the material and also the people that you were working with to ensure it was a place that was creatively fulfilling, but also a work environment that you would feel safe and supported in.
Yeah, for sure. I think something that I learned that I really valued on the bold type was just things that have a sense of humor, but things that also have some real heart to them. I think that show definitely had both of those things. And like I mentioned before, I really fell in love with comedy there. So I definitely, after that, was sort of looking for something that felt like it had a combo of those 2 things, for sure, yeah.
All right, so I wanted to sandwich this question between that show and the White Lotus, because I don't know which one it will apply to. You can pick. So I'm always curious to ask about someone's experience breaking out in this industry, because we love throwing that term around, and it can mean something completely different from the outsider perspective compared to the person going through it. So I guess, which project do you feel is your breakout, and maybe how did having a breakout opportunity change things for the better for you?
There's really no denying that being on the White Lotus changed my life and career. It has, as a result, afforded me so many incredible opportunities since then. So I'm eternally grateful to have had that opportunity. And it was such an incredible creative experience. So, I mean, that's going to probably go down in history as being one of the more charmed experiences of my life. So yeah, I mean, I do think that was kind of the shift for me, I guess. I mean, but now I'm sort of learning that it's just, you're in constant shift. And each new shift just brings new feelings of growth and, you know, sometimes discomfort, but good because growth. So yeah.
No, I get that. I'll build on that a little bit, because another part of that question that I usually do tack on, and I guess it being shifts could answer this kind of, but what would you say is the biggest misconception you had about what it would mean to have a breakout moment?
Well, I will say the press cycle for that show was so unbelievable. And it, again, like so lucky to be in a position where so many people do want to talk to you about what you're doing. But I remember finishing that press cycle and being like, never have to do that again. That's done. And then I was like, oh, wait, every time I do a project, I have to do, I mean, it's not always to that scale, but I don't know why in my brain I was like, oh, I did that and now that's done. And now on to the next thing. So I just wasn't really expecting that for some reason, which is so silly. It's like, duh.
Well, I mean, it is a lot. I'll add another layer to that, because you had a 1-2 punch with the White Lotus press cycle, because you do it for the show's release, and then you do it again for award season. What is the biggest misconception you had about what it would be like to go on award season runs with shows like that?
Oh my God. Okay. I was actually just talking to somebody about this the other day because I had never sort of gone through that circuit before. And obviously as somebody who loves film and TV, I've grown up watching all of the awards. And so even as someone who feels like an outsider, you know the term. You've heard, award season. It's award season. But to me, before that, it was just like, on the couch with my friends, like eating snacks, like talking about people's outfits. It is crazy.
Yeah.
That whole thing is nuts. And that's another thing where I'm like, every year, some people do that every year.
Isn't that wild?
They're just like, here we go. It's this brunch and it's this lunch and it's this thing. I mean, it's really nonstop. I have so much respect for the actors who have been doing it for, years and years and years and still show up and make it feel really lovely and fresh and exciting still. Because it is, of course. But yeah, kind of blew my mind when I saw the inner workings of the whole thing.
Here's another thing I'll add to that. What tip would you give to another actor about to experience their first award season circuit so that they can get everything done that they have to, but they could also really enjoy it and make the most of it?
I think that would be the thing that I would advise is just have fun with people that you like, that you're with, who are there and really enjoy it. Because if you take it too seriously or yourself too seriously, or if you worry too much about, if you're wearing the right thing and doing the right thing, it can take the joy out of it. So I think, the best thing to do would just be like, have fun.
Yeah. I love how that's your answer. Now I'm about to be like, now take it seriously, because awards are not why you do the work, but when you get a nomination like an Emmy nomination, one, it's a plain old big deal in general, but also it can mean a lot to you depending on where you're at in your career, if not your life. So when that nomination was announced, what did it mean to you?
It was a huge honor, definitely a surprise as well, but incredible honor. And I think the best part of it, honestly, was being nominated alongside some of the other women who I had worked with on the show, who I had had such great experiences with because I was such a fan of their performances as well. So I think there was something communal about it. I mean, I know that category at the time was very dominated by White Lotus and Succession and stuff like that. But, I was just so honored to be in that group with all of those women. It was great.
So before I creep closer to drop, this is one of my favorite questions to ask because in general, I'm just obsessed with all the different acting techniques. Everyone has their own approach. Every approach is right as long as it's your approach and it feels good to you. So again, very big question. Of all of the projects you've ever worked on, can you name an actor who has a very similar approach to the work as your own, where the second you met, you were immediately in sync? But then I also want an example of the opposite, someone who challenged you to adapt and maybe try something new.
Amazing. Well, I'm about to start working with Rose Byrne on the show. I've been a fan of hers for so long. And I love the way that she moves through her career. I love the way that she handles herself, and she's got such an incredible spirit. And I really admire that she has done, proper comedy and proper drama. And that's something I'm super interested in doing in my career as well. So I do want to say she's probably that person.
I love that.
So working with her is very exciting. And then somebody who has a super different approach to mine. Trying to think. Because I don't know. I mean, I think I've worked with so many people who really do feel like pros in the sense that, they're prepared and they're professional and they know what they're doing, but not necessarily, I've not necessarily had the experience of working with somebody who feels very unconventional to me.
No, I get that.
Think about that. That's a really good
That's the exciting thing, is that there's many more shows and movies in your future. And again, everyone brings something different to the table. I'll turn that towards you specifically now. And I don't necessarily mean a formal acting technique. It could be anything you do. But what is something that you've kind of done since day one, a particular technique or idea you've held tight to? But then can you also tell me something new you've tried as an actor more recently?
Well, I am admittedly a kind of go with the flow person. I'm not a huge prepper. Usually, I mean, I kind of like to go based off of what I'm feeling and seeing and what's happening across from me in the moment. And I think I'm sort of like trying now to lean into doing that differently sometimes. Like with Drop, I had no idea what to expect. And I was really nervous to start because I was like, wow, I wonder if I can even do this. But I didn't really know how to prepare for something like that. And luckily, like I said before, Chris took such good care of me and really led me through that. But yeah, I think that like, just staying open. I'm trying to stay really, really open.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I love how you're go with the flow, but maybe leaning into like getting the details from Chris on Drop. And I'm like, tell me how to stop doing this and be more go with the flow. I've got none of that in my body. I'm like
not true.
Max type A. Got to be prepped to a T. Well,
see, I could probably benefit from having a little bit more.
Don't we all need a happy medium?
Until it really screws me. And it has.
Yeah.
A couple times.
I get that from the reverse,
Yeah.
the other perspective. So
extremes,
briefly, one other thing, because you brought up the Rose Byrne show, and you've also got another one, a limited series, I believe, that sounds really intriguing to me. It's Sirens, and Julianne, Millie. Oh, and it's also a Molly Smith Metzler and Lucky Chat production. You're working with so many of my favorite people and entities. I guess for that one, I'll go with this first because based on what I've read, I believe this question will apply. What is it like going toe to toe with Julianne Moore of all people?
You know what's incredible about her? She is someone who I have wanted to work with my whole career. And the thing that's so crazy is that she is so intimidating as a presence because her body of work is so amazing, but she's such a down-to-earth human and she's so cool and she makes herself so approachable and she's so just human. I was really shocked to feel as comfortable around her as I was just because I thought I would be like, oh my God, I hope she thinks that I'm, fun and nice and cool and that I don't suck and all these things, but she was just so awesome.
She's always got a great warmth to her, even just from the interview perspective.
I was kind of expecting her to have that because it does sort of exude from her. And everybody had told me that she was so wonderful. But yeah, just to kind of be in her presence and to witness how she sort of carries herself through the set and the way she interacts with crew and other creative team members it was very inspiring to me.
Always love hearing about
it. It's a class act for sure.
I like hearing that about people I admire in this business quite a bit and people who are just general tone setters on their project and also beyond.
Yeah, and for me, as I'm still a young-ish actress, and so learning from people like that, from women like her who I've admired for so long is such a gift.
I get that. Here's a question about that project that I don't know if you're going to be able to answer because I don't know how familiar you are with. I believe it's based on a play that Molly wrote.
Yeah,
and it was written a while ago, and a lot has changed in recent years. So I was wondering, can you speak to how maybe that material has evolved and how that will I guess lean into what modern audiences might expect from that particular type of story?
Yeah, well, the thing that's so amazing about Molly is that she's an incredible writer and she had everything done before we started shooting, but she also is very present in the sense that she watches what's happening and she takes notes. And if she sees something really interesting that's going on, she'll go back and kind of cater to the cool thing that she's seen that's happening. So she's very, very open and has such a good eye on her actors. She kind of knows what they're good at and what's working and what she wants to give them more of. And so that was a really incredible part of the experience. So all of that to say, I do think that the show is different in a lot of ways from the play. But I think that people who are maybe fans of the play or who read it or anything will still really enjoy this version of it.
I love hearing when someone adapts something and each has a different quality. So it still calls for watching or reading both things. And I don't know, you can kind of get obviously the same experience, but two different ones at the same time. It's amazing. All right. So Drop, and correct me if I'm wrong on this particular detail, but is this the first time that you're number one on the call sheet of a feature film?
Oh God, yeah, for sure.
I couldn't believe I like double checked your IMDb a million times to make sure I was right about that. I guess like, what does that mean to you? And also, I don't know, like, are there any, I guess actually I'll add this. First, what does it mean to you? I'll add the other one after.
Well, I think it's funny that we have numbers, and I understand why they're used though. And I will say that obviously it felt like a really big responsibility for me. I prefer to be a little lower down because I feel like it's not as much pressure. But that being said, it really was an honor, and but it didn't really feel like I was, the lead of this film, because it was such a collaborative experience. And like Brandon was there with me every day across the table. He was such an incredible support system and such an amazing actor. And Chris, and the three of us were like very much in communication about what we were doing and why, and if we needed to change anything. So it really just felt like we were all a team together shooting this play, basically.
So the other part of that question, and also like, I get why you say you don't think there should be numbers, but also like when you earn the opportunity to be number one, it means something in so many different ways.
I will say that I have learned so much from women.
You literally read my mind. That was the other half of my question, especially because of what you brought up about Julianne.
Yeah, and I think I really have learned that it is important to move with grace in that position, and to infuse the set when you can with positive energy and support and openness. And I have been so lucky to be underneath a woman who has done that for me. So it's definitely not something that I don't think about.
I love that. You should, and you should be very proud of that. So looking at your character now, Violet, this is a question that I love asking. I'm especially excited to ask it right now because with this particular role, I don't know. I feel like it could be one thing to just be like a surface level anchor for a film like this, but you give her so much texture and layers. And I believe what she's fighting for, in addition to just being thrilled by this high concept situation. So someone recently explained to me that one of the most exciting but nerve-wracking things as an actor is jumping into a new project, feeling like you're on unstable ground. But then you have that moment where like you do something either in prep or on set and you're like, I have just found who this character is to me. Did you have that with Violet? And if so, when?
I definitely had that with Violet, for sure. I mean, I fell in love with that character the first time I read the script, and I thought it was so beautiful. Her journey, her trajectory, and sort of everything that she goes through. And of course, the beginning is just so, she's a survivor of domestic violence, and she's, now become a therapist to help other women. And so to see her kind of drop into herself throughout the course of the film and sort of come out of her shell, because when we meet her, she's a little shy and a little insecure. And I think when it probably really clicked for me on set was pretty early, actually. I think also really when Brandon came in and we started shooting the restaurant stuff, his energy is so incredible that it sort of helped me too to be like, oh, and this is what Violet is doing now. Like when you have another actor like that, it helps sometimes to be like, oh, now that I see that that's what you're doing, like it helps me kind of click into place too. So yeah, I think it was probably pretty early that I felt that.
Oh, really like something else. I mean, I love me any kind of genre movie, and I'll get into it when you have a good concept, but I don't know, to have it like mean something, you need to have characters that you believe are real people. And I think both of you do that exceptionally well here. I'm very curious about the production challenges of this movie. When you read this script and you get the character you're playing and the situation she finds herself in, what I guess are some of your biggest burning questions for Chris in terms of like how you're going to photograph all of this? Because you need to be aware of that here.
Yeah, totally. Well, he explained everything to me really early on. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He knew that it was going to be a lot of different cuts, because with a film like Drop, which is largely two people sitting across from each other at a table, but it's a thriller, how do you create that pulse? How do you create that movement? And Chris, I think, nailed it. And he did it with camera angles and cuts and And it didn't feel, he joked with me before we started shooting that it was going to be death by 1,000 cuts, but it really didn't feel like that when we got into it. I mean, it was exhausting for sure, but everything he asked me to do had such purpose to it that I never really felt like I was, being asked to do something that was not a good use of our time. So that was such a good feeling to have too.
The editing in this is spot on, but also give yourself a lot of credit because it is not easy to, I guess, act scared when something isn't there. And I have to imagine on set, like you're not looking at everything as is in the finished film on the phone. So I guess like what techniques can you rely on? What places can you go to in order to, I guess, act scared when action is called?
Yeah, that was definitely challenging, because I wasn't seeing any of the video or stuff that you see as the audience. And it can be hard to be sitting across from an actor and not really feel, I mean, we have a couple of really wonderful connective moments between the two characters, but other than that, she's kind of alone in it, which I think actually weirdly ended up serving me the further we got into shooting because I was starting to feel that way. And I was so tired that I was feeling more vulnerable and more fragile. And I think that actually ended up kind of serving it. So it was sort of a, strange but good quality, I started really feeling it.
There's something, you make me believe. You make me believe so much. I'll squeeze in 2 more questions. I'll lift the spoiler warning for drop for this last one here because I want to make sure you could talk about it freely. Going into the filming of this movie, which single scene do you think was going to be like the most difficult for you to pull off? And ultimately, was it or did a different scene in the movie catch you by surprise?
Well, I was very curious about the scene where I get sucked out the window and I'm sort of looking out the window. And that ended up being the scene that was as interesting and sort of tricky as I thought it was going to be. Also, the stabbing was a little harder than I thought. There's like I've never stabbed anybody in real life or on film before. And that was actually really a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. It's so technical and to sell it is way harder than it looks. Like I have such a newfound respect and admiration for all of that and all of those films and the actors, who are pulling it off with such, commitment. So, that I was like, I watched playback and I was like, oh, it does not look real.
It's such a twisted thing to say, but given I watch a lot of horror movies, I think about this all the time to either be stabbed or to stab someone else in that scenario. It's like a really difficult thing to do believably.
It is. It was way harder than I thought. Yeah.
Bring on more stunt work now. I know this is your first time doing that. I want to see more. Let's get you in another horror movie ASAP too, please.
So that.
All right. I always say manifestation table. We speak things we want into existence here, and I want more of you in this genre. All right. We have hit the last question of Ladies' Night. Every single episode ends with this particular question. So in this business, clearly we give each other awards. Super cool. We should keep doing that. I find that nobody tells themselves good job as much as they should. Can you tell me something you accomplished making drop that you'll always be able to look back on and say, you know what? Really proud of what I did there.
Kind of the whole thing, I guess. I mean, the whole thing was just a completely new experience for me. So, and it was an incredible experience. So I'll always be really proud of it. And also, it'll always be my first thriller. So it's always gonna have such a special place in my heart.
First of many to come, I know it. I'm gonna say huge congratulations on everything you've accomplished, on drop, everything coming your way in the future. Come back to Ladies' Night more. You gotta use the dice tower next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.